Dungeons and Dragons. Yep. Quite vogue these days, isn't it? I mean, I've never really done it much. I have, on occasion, dabbled in a bit of tabletop. I've LARPed. Hello, this is Grendel, my comrade in arms. But it's the TV show for me. Always was. Gotta be honest, that's probably makes me a very bad person in some elitist LARPing or elitist D&D circles. But hey ho, what can you do? And it's the 40th anniversary this year of the said TV show, Dungeons and Dragons. And I went on a bit of a nostalgia bent. Should we have a look? So really the first thing to look at, because this is all about nostalgia, are the boxes. There again, you've got closed cardboard boxes like you do with several of the new Black Series figures. I think they're gorgeous. Oh, I hope this isn't the main selling point of this or value point of this range. I really don't. But these boxes are really nice. I mean, I've only just noticed, I've had some of these for a few weeks. I've only just noticed the mural effect of the characters down one side. Again, some of the more current Black Series is. There is a visible gap where I don't have Bobby and Uni. And clearly they're meant to sit, their box is meant to sit between Diana and Presto just here, because the image doesn't really match up at all what's going on. Presto's elbow disappears, Diana's staff goes away. So again, you've got that effect where I guess they're thinking people might want to line them up and look at them library style. That would be nice. But that's also a bit of a mess up. That's because while Hank, Diana, Presto, Eric, and SHEILA all are the same size box, I mean, look, SHEILA, for example, they're this kind of cool looking box design. The Venger and Dungeon Master 2-pack, just here, and I suspect our young Bobby might be the same, is a much bigger box. Look at that. So you wind up on your shelf, you would wind up with such a discrepancy of depth that it just wouldn't work. It would just look so bizarre to have them like that in library lineup style. I'll use the SHEILA as an example. It's very cool photo on the front of the toy, very well kind of, and it is, yeah, it looks like a photo of the toy itself rather than a CG render. I could be wrong. Lovely artwork, like the original kind of replica artwork style there. This more cartoon, this more kind of current solid line version there of the character, which, you know, it works. It's a bit of a departure from the original animation, slightly, just modernized a bit, but that's actually a thing with the figures themselves, as we'll get into. On the back, you've got an image of the toy, you've got the die in question, because every single one of these comes with one, maybe two in some cases, in the case of the big sets, one role-play die. The accessories, so in the case of SHEILA, you've got two capes. You've got the one that I currently have wearing, which is the one that iridescent to suggest that she's disappearing. Spare hood to go over, because the cape and the hood aren't combined, because you've got to pop her head off to get these capes on. And just an ordinary looking cape. Also, her other wave mates, in this case, Eric and Presto. Likewise, say, with Diana, Hank, Bobby, they come under the same wave. Also, so I'm going to assume that Bobby is in the smaller box style then. And again, a different die type, other accessories, and they all seem to have their accessory or their skill weapon in like a state. So you in like kind of like an action state and a passive just holding on to a state. With Venger and Dungeon Master, again, they're part of that wave one. You get the backdrop as well. I forgot to mention. So here, I've actually got it with this to go with your deluxe price. You get a backdrop for the whole set. You get the two die. You get Venger's spare hands with affixed blasters, blaster powers. And you get the illustration of two figures. It's God, these boxes are lovely. I think they're absolutely lovely. And yeah, they're kind of all sealed in there. It's quite delicate. Popped it open, slid him out. I should have gone from underneath with the Diana one, but they're very cool looking. The boxes just look great, and they really feed into that nostalgia vibe for, you know, someone who's clocking 4 decades in life. We're going to start with Dungeon Master specifically. This little guy here, bargain basement D&D Yoda in all his glory. There he is. I mean, he is what he is, really. Look at him. He's a unit. He's just a little... He's like a chess piece with movable arms and articulated wrists, which give you a nice kind of little pointing ability there, and not much else. They rotate. They kind of move that way and that way. I mean, he looks good. There is some definite blemishes or issues. He's made completely out of hard plastic, so he's a bit of a solid thing. There's some paint issues there where that white hasn't gone onto the red. You can see kind of blemishes in it throughout. Paint is an issue on this entire line, I'm not going to lie. One of the issues. This hard plastic for clothing is another one, but we're about to get into that rather spectacularly with Venger here. So Venger, it's Venger. Look at him, and he grand. The idea of a toy Venger is just what sold me on looking into this line. My heroes and villains of my youth interest, Venger was straight up there. As soon as I knew this was a thing. However, he's entirely made of the same kind of plastics and soft or slightly softer plastics here. Again, we have some paint issues, as you can see, including a very bland painted face, which is a bit of a shame. He's got wrist articulation, he's got arm articulation, but it's completely hindered by this tunic that just gets in the way. You can't get away from the fact that that just limits what he can do. He can do an up pose. He can do a down pose. Hey, Macarena. And that's kind of it, really. Well, side to side, I suppose. But the main aim is to give him that kind of spellcastery, kind of menacing, forward, blasting you effect, which he can do with this, and also an alternate hand for the other hand as well, whereas the alternate hand for this one is a fist, a closed fist. Not that Venger's probably ever punched anyone. Doesn't need to. Sadly, the legs are heavily articulated, but because of this stuff, there's no point. You're literally doing that. That's what he can do. Ta-da! He looks great, but it's a bit of a disappointment. It's lovely to look at him, but that's all you can really do. While on the topic of Venger, I want to really quickly do a quick comparison. It's a bit of an odd one, maybe to you, but just to give you an idea of different figures in different lines. So we'll lose him. And I'm going to bring in, probably from my childhood, the characters that I think most compared to him. So this is the Empire Strikes Back anniversary Darth Vader. And what we have here is the Masterverse New Eternia Skeletor with the more classic attire on. And as you can see, that gives you an idea. Venger's taller than both of them, and he looks really foreboding. That's pretty cool. It's just a shame that you just can't do anywhere near the kind of intimidating posability that these two figures can. Right, next up is Eric, the Cavalier, the whiny, rich douchebag of the good guy team. The least likable character in the series, and I've got to be honest, of this lot, the least likable toy. He's a mixed bag of all the things that irk me about these toys. I'll give you an idea what I mean. So, okay, he's got the same hard plastics instead of soft goods thing. Again, the price point unavoidable, but it kind of affects mobility of it and what you can do with him and what poses you can do. He's kind of stuck just kind of doing these general standing poses. Also about posing, he's really hard to pose. To get to stand up, as I find with a few of these, his legs are, the lower half of his legs, this material is super malleable. I mean, there's so much bend in there, and just how soft the plastics are on it. Also, a very weird design choice for the joints. So this is the boot. This is the top of the boot. There's the joint. There. So the top of the boot sits on his upper leg. There's the joint. There's the leg. That's really weird. I find the head, I know they have got more round, large, slightly rounder heads for the bodies. I find for Eric it doesn't work. It just makes him look a little younger and a bit more, even more sarcastic than he is. It's kind of annoying. Also, there's color missing. They're all pretty simple in their color themes, but even on the toy box, these are kind of painted blue, like they are in the cartoon. Yet they've just done this kind of metallic silver across the board, and it just makes him look a bit boring. And compared to the others, he's got very little going on. Also reminds me a bit of, was it Dirk? Was it Sir Dirk or Dirk the Knight from the Dragon's Lair games? I think with this all being that colour, it kind of reminds me of him. If I've got that name right, I don't remember. Right, okay, accessories. Also, Eric has got the least going on with accessories and add-ons. He has his shield. Ooh. You can see this little halo here, this little magic halo, for when his shield is being all super shieldy. Yeah, so you just pop that off when it's not being super shieldy. And that's it. Oh my good grief, he's standing. That's brilliant. In like the pose that he can stand in. Oh, Eric. Okay, next up is Hank, which is kind of disappointing because Hank was probably one of my, if not my favourite character, alongside Venger of the actual show. The young leader, the confident leader, the all-American hero. God, he had a really cool bow. I mean, I wanted to be this guy in like role play as a kid, not the all-American thing. Not me, you know what I mean. But just the bow was pretty awesome. I like the costume in the show. I like the confidence. The toy doesn't quite live up to it. There's the same paint kind of blemishes and what have you. He's got the same hot, soft plastic in the way of clothing and articulation, which proves to be a bit of an issue if you want to get decent poses with him. Best exhibited by looking at his other accessory. Same down here. This is quite restrictive, if I'm being honest. Hopefully it will soften. Maybe take a hairdryer to it. Because, I mean, he's got pretty good articulation, but when you want to put him in archery poses, which is what he's fundamentally meant to do, that's when you have the problems. Can't stand. No. Come on, see? Here we go. Articulation and balance. There we go. Right. Speaking of his accessories, similarly to Eric, he's only got the one accessory, but it just looks much better. It's that magical bow when it's actually been drawn. So it all becomes an energy weapon, which is a bit wrong, because I think the bow part still stayed like solid, but you get the rest of the energy kind of bit. But this is where it's annoying. This is where the articulation proves to be a problem, because you want him to be able to pose successfully with it, like with this hand, which has been sculpted to be a bow drawing hand, but you just can't line it up to look good enough. It's just, what is that? That just looks weird. It looks like he's carrying a big glowy harp, and you kind of trying to get an angle that will work and will also allow for the hand. And yeah, no, it just doesn't. I spent ages trying to do this, and it's just disappointing. So you kind of fudge it a little bit, and then if you want to take photos, get your angle right, and you're away. But yeah, you're not really going to get a dynamic archer pose out of this guy while holding that thing in a proper manner. It's a bit of a shame. SHEILA is the older sister of Bobby, the Barbarian, the one figure I don't have. This is a pretty cool figure, and in the show, she was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a very cool character, cool power, nice design. Definitely one of the best head sculpts, best head decor colors, I think, in this particular line. All three of the three from SHEILA onwards, I love the head sculpts on them. She has another rigid plastic cape here. She's got the whole kind of mobility restricted due to the plastics of the skirt tunic thing, which Hank's got. She's got it even a bit more, which is kind of disappointing, because when we get onto Diana's articulation is great, and I was kind of hoping SHEILA would be the same, but this does hinder it greatly. Also, she's got a thing, Diana has this as well, and I'm finding this where I'm exploring other lines other than Transformer lines, like the Black series, for example, that female characters I have some real problems getting female characters to stand, or at least just generic female characters. Yeah, I think it's the size of the feet and the way they make the legs so skinny, depending on the character and what have you. I can really struggle in getting anything more dynamic than just a standing pose with them. I just don't know what it is. It's mildly frustrating, really. Well, you do have the pegs in the feet where you could stick her on a stand, but I'd rather not have to do that if I can get away with it. Yeah. Also, Sheila's got the most involved, I would say, of the accessories. She has 2 accessories, though they come as a one piece. She has an alternate cape, which is kind of translucent at the bottom, and the hood, which you kind of put on her head. But first, before you can do any of that, you do have to take the head off to get it on. That's quite the most it's the most involved part of it. So we take that, we pop on the new cape. There we go. Look at the tininess of that. I'm very worried I'm going to break it. And it's in there. Pop on the ball joint, back on. Good. There we go. Clip, clippity clip. And then take this to give the illusion she's putting the hood up. And you got that look. It's pretty simplistic. It doesn't look much different than our other one, but it's just that really cool kind of translucent effect there to suggest that she's pulled her hood up and she is now disappearing into the background as an unseen thief. Yeah, that's Sheila. Presto, I think, he's got the soft plastic issue with leg mobility. He has got legs that can be moved and maneuvered and articulated, but it's kind of pointless again because of this. But it doesn't matter because he's a wizard. He's a spellcaster like Venger. So he can just plant his feet firmly on the ground, nothing to worry about. It would be nicer if Venger could do more because he's the villain. He's got to be more foreboding. Doesn't matter with Presto. Presto is a very edgy, nervous character anyway. He was the nerd. Great face sculpt to go with that. I love this head. Heaps of arm articulation for posing, for spells and what have you. Rotating, elbows, arms. It's great. But yeah, a slight paint overlap there. But again, with the paints, he's come out pretty well. He does look really good. His accessories are a lot of fun and a bit surreal, really. So the hat can come off. The thing is, when you do that, you also have to stick him a new set of hair on. It's not a head swap, it's a set of hair. Because there's actually a little peg on the hat. So there, you can stick the hat on using that peg. So you can swap his hair over if you wanted to put the hat on him. So obviously you can take the hat off and you can attach this rather beautiful translucent blast effect here as if he's pulling magic out of his hat and he's about to cast a spell. There is another translucent effect which just sits inside the hat as he's holding the hat in his hand as if magic is brewing. I know I just said he has heaps of articulation in his arms, which is great for casting spells, but yeah, once you put him in this pose, actually, he's kind of stuck like that. That's kind of all he can do. Which leaves Diana. Best for last. Out of this set, at the very least, this figure's great. It's particularly from an articulation point of view. I mean, she's the acrobat. So she's got to be able to move her limbs and what have you and have that pose ability. I mean, she does suffer from the similar comments that I made about Sheila and the size of legs and feet, though her feet, the boots are slightly bigger than Sheila's are at the bottom. And also, I guess, the costume. The costume comes from the D&D female characters playbook, and also that 1980s He-Man bushy jockstrap look. But you know, it suits the acrobat in this instance. We can kind of say, fine, fair enough. Not great for adventuring in the freezing cold, but, you know, it's an 80s cartoon show. But she looks great. The bow staff looks great. You can maneuver her arms really well and manipulate them to utilize the bow staff for posability and what you can get out of her. I mean, again, because of the feet and everything, take a few goes to kind of get her to stand sometimes, but it works. The face sculpt I absolutely adore. It's the best one in my opinion. There's a bit of paint on the back, but that's okay. It's better. It's even better. Hers and Presto's are my favorite, and SHEILA third. I think she looks absolutely awesome, and she looks very kick-ass. I showed my kids the cartoon pilot, the first episode, a few weeks back. We were having like an exchange of cartoons, and I didn't realize how kick-ass she was as a character. I'd ignored her in the original series when I was little, and I don't know, maybe because, again, staring at redheads or Hank and his bow. But Diana was brilliant in the show. I really enjoyed the character, and I could see the appeal of the character and wanting to kind of like root for her, particularly in front of my kids, to encourage characters like her in this day and age. She comes with just the one other accessory, which, you know, fair enough. I mean, she's got so much else going for her. She gets a pass. But also, it's another one of these kind of, like Hank, is kind of the weapon in an action state. So you could imagine her kind of swinging it around and kind of like in a threatening manner and just say, I'm gonna get you with it, Avenger. It's like, there you go. And just, I will say one thing about the accessories on this line, the weapons, they're a bit loose in the hands, but still, you know, I think I suppose that's kind of excusable with the price and what have you for some of these figures. I mean, they're not, they are potentially on a cheaper line for the size of them in comparison to other figures that you can get, but also, I mean, for it's clearly a nostalgia line that's going to, I assume, will be not aimed at small children because no one's going to recognize them. It's a bit surprising that they're not gone as hard as they could. There's a bit more paint on that shoulder there. Anyway, sorry, Diana. By far my runaway favorite of the figures. I mean, she just looks gorgeous, and she's got great articulation, which apparently is something in this day and age really matters to me with figures. I could be greedy, I don't know, but yeah, I could stare at this one all day and play with this one all day compared to the others. Yep, sit, stand, please, Acrobat Princess, stand still. Okay. Anyway, they're gonna just let go. No, come on. Right, last posing. Here we go. No, not having it. Fine. I'm gonna give up. So there you have it. That's the Hasbro Dungeons and Dragons cartoon 40th anniversary toy line, the nostalgia line that it is, that's been released, with the exception of the Bobby and Uni two-piece, which doesn't seem to be out here in New Zealand yet in regular stores. Though it is part of Wave 1, I clearly must have missed it somehow. But I will hunt it down. I'm going to collect it. I'm going to complete this set, despite the fact that there are some disappointing aspects of it. The flaws are there. The choice of plastics for costumes, which then greatly limit articulation on characters that could use them. Hank, that cause a degree of boring, uninteresting posability options. Venger, the usual kind of difficulties of characters of a feminine nature with smaller feet and legs, and the balance issues that incorporates. SHEILA, and to a lesser degree Diana. Weird choices of plastic and positioning of joints, as well as not quite interesting enough color use. Eric, but there's so many other things that are quite lovely about it. The nostalgia aspect is very lovely. The accessories are very cute and they're very nice. All in all, they're nice representations of the characters, with slight tweaks. The best ones being, in my opinion, Presto, Diana, and SHEILA. And I particularly the head sculpts, I like their faces the most. Venger's face needs so much more color to it to make it more interesting. Who's it aimed at? That's what I'm trying to work out. Who is this aimed at? Because these are very simplistic looking toys. They're very simplistic toys due to the nature of the plastic limiting articulation and the 4+ rating on the toy. It suggests it's for younger children. But then this is a 40th anniversary toy set from a cartoon show from the 1980s, in an era where people my age and older are buying ridiculously priced action figures marketed as toys to kids, which they wouldn't really be able to buy unless they were fully grown adults who could afford the price point. So do they actually know what they want to be? Who they're marketed at? Is it a catch-all? I wouldn't buy these at full price if I were you. If you're looking, don't. I mean, Mighty Ape are selling some of them. Toyco are selling some of them. There are individuals on Trade Me that are selling some. Fishing Hub being one. These places have sales. I don't know about Mighty Ape as much, but I mean, I know that Trade Me, there was a seller on Trade Me that was selling Wave 1 for like $19 a figure. I wish I'd seen that a few months earlier, because that's a price point I was fine paying. I mean, you're talking about a figure now, which at this current price point of 30 odd bucks, you can get a core class Transformer figure that transforms and has great articulation for the same price. It's a smaller figure. These guys, apart from Diana, don't have anywhere near that kind of articulation. So yeah, pick them up secondhand. Pick them up on sale. If you want the nostalgia buzz, go for your life. I'm glad I've got them. They got a nice little shelf. I just need Bobby and Uni. If they'd release Tiamat, I think I will fall over myself. And I'm gonna forgive the flaws because I was able to get them cheaper, and they look cool. They're a nice nod, and c'est la vie. It's a lesson learned on my part, but it's definitely a good example of me being more selective of what I buy outside of a Transformers universe. This little journey where I've started looking at other figures and other lines to feed my nostalgia. Yeah, I need to look into and be a bit more wary of this sort of stuff. Anyway, that's all there is from me. Have a beautiful week. Keep smiling, and I'll see you again soon.